Welcome back. Well, youth turnout is expected to reach record highs in this year's US election. So how are the candidates trying to connect with young people? Well, to reach and excite young voters, candidates are using communications tools like never before. But while John McCain is said to be unable to use email, Barack Obama's campaign team excels in using social networking websites such as MySpace and Facebook. On Facebook, Obama has over 2 million supporters, 4 times as many as McCain. Even though around half of these are outside of America, this could well make the difference among young American voters. And the celebrity-led youth voter movement, Rock the Vote, claims its campaign has been crucial in registering young new voters. Youth voter turnout has increased in almost every state. In Tennessee, for instance, turnout is 4 times what it was in the 2000 election. So what issues are young Americans most worried about? In a Rock the Vote poll of 18 to 29-year-olds eligible to vote, the overwhelming majority said they were concerned about getting jobs and the state of the economy. Next, they said the war in Iraq is a big worry for them. They also expressed concerns over healthcare as well as the cost of education. What wasn't so important to young people in the poll was homeland security, something John McCain has pushed during his campaign. Well, still with us are our guests in Washington, Rob Anderson, in Boston, Malcolm Glenn, and joining us in this part of the show from New York is the author and lawyer Amin Hussain. Amin Hussain, let me start with you, if I may. What do you think is causing young Americans to be so enthusiastic about this US election?
Well, I think they're finding someone that actually speaks to their needs. And here's a person that's going to break from the past, that promises hope and change, that embodies that. And not only speaks to the youth, but speaks on their behalf on the issues that you just mentioned, from education to jobs to community service to a less arrogant foreign policy, and a look towards the future rather than being stuck in the past.
Let me stick with you for a second, Amin Hussain. I mean, which of the candidates do you think has a better appeal to young Americans?
I think there's no question that Barack Obama, in his background, in his story, in the way that he speaks to the issues in a more nuanced, sophisticated, complex way that doesn't diminish people's ability to think about the issues, but actually forces them to elevate their thinking, is where we are today in terms of the youth vote.
Let's just bring in back Malcolm Glenn there at Harvard University. Malcolm Glenn, we were talking about new platforms like MySpace and Facebook there. I mean, how have those new technology platforms benefited and galvanized the youth vote?
Well, I think it's really telling. Last week at the Al Smith dinner, Barack Obama made a joke about his Facebook page, and then you contrast that with someone like John McCain, who has spoken in the past of his computer illiteracy. And so, at its very, very core level, it's just sort of gotten the youth and youth voters to get to know this candidate a whole lot better than that candidate. The vice presidential text message was another example of how the Obama campaign has really just gone through the different channels to get to youth voters in a way that John McCain hasn't. And so it just really provides a different level of exposure, really important exposure, that John McCain hasn't really been able to take advantage of.
Let me just bring in Rob Anderson there in Washington, D.C. Rob, I mean, how are these platforms like MySpace and YouTube and Facebook, how important are they in galvanizing that youth vote?
I think they're very important, but it's not just the fact that the technology exists. It's not MySpace and Facebook in and of itself that is changing or is really impacting the election. It's that these technologies are allowing young people to do traditional campaign things. Like, the internet makes it easier for young people to give money. The internet makes it easier for young people to volunteer, to canvass for a campaign. So the technology is enhancing old school political techniques, and that's where the big change comes in.
Amin Hussain, I saw you nodding your head there. What have you got to say? I mean, how has the internet helped both candidates, for example?
Well, I think it opened up the market, the ideas market, right? So you have people talking great things about Barack Obama and then sharing it with people that are less enthusiastic, and they seem to be influencing them towards Obama's side. My mom was one person that she got on Facebook, and all of a sudden she saw that Barack Obama was on my Facebook, and she started talking about those issues with me. and talking through what's important, and she ended up actually now going to vote for Barack Obama.
What do young voters look for when they vote for a candidate? I mean, polls show they want perhaps leadership, they want vision over age and experience. Are they right?
I think, well, yeah, at this point in our lives, I think we're a very sort of optimistic voting group. We're very easily inspired, and I think what we're looking for is obviously beyond someone who we agree with regarding the most important of issues, is someone who can inspire us and is someone who we can really put our faith in, someone who will go off into the world and make us proud. I was talking to someone who had been studying abroad in a recent semester, and they said, if the person that they're voting for wins this election, they're going to be genuinely proud again to go off into foreign countries and say that I'm an American. And I think that's what we're all looking for beyond, obviously, these issues that we disagree about. I think we're all looking for that inspiration.
Rob Anderson in Washington, D.C., let me put that question to you. I mean, how do young Americans look at both candidates? I mean, do they see Obama as someone who has perhaps a better vision because of his age? I don't know.
Well, I think the most important thing is that young people have come of age politically in the age of George W. Bush, and we're pretty unhappy with the policies of the last 8 years. The Bush administration mismanaged a war. The Bush administration mismanaged the response to Hurricane Katrina. The economy's not doing well. We can't get health care. We can't get jobs. And so the young people want a candidate who can shake things up, who can sort of make America the country we know it can be. And we're excited to support someone who can do that.
I mean, Hussein, how crucial will the young vote be to the final outcome, assuming, of course, that they actually get out and vote?
It's extremely crucial. I mean, it's crucial not only in terms of Obama making it to the presidency, but in fact in terms of governance. This is the 21st century issues, lacking a vision, lacking a direction. Divisive politics over 8 years hasn't helped. And a person like Barack Obama needs to get to the White House, and the young youth vote is going to be critical. And just on that point, what's different from past elections where the Democratic candidate has failed is that with Barack Obama's organization, you have a perfect marriage between not only the internet and those means of communication, but also in terms of people on the ground. The ability to raise so much capital and the enthusiasm that's on the ground has allowed Barack Obama to open up offices where the person that wants to actually volunteer, there's a physical presence there to get them involved. And I think that's what we haven't seen in past elections, which promise that actually the youth this time will turn out in larger numbers.
Malcolm Glenn, is there a feeling that young people in America at last somehow feel wanted, that this is their chance to make a difference for their own future?
I mean, yeah, I think on some level, if you're courted, then you're going to feel more inclined to, support the person who courts you. You want to be wanted. But just to go back to the previous point about social networking sites, I don't want to downplay the way that the college Republicans can also take advantage of these things, especially in a homogenous political culture like Harvard. I think a lot of college Republicans are using these social networking sites, Facebook and MySpace, to connect with people on other campuses, to connect with people who share their ideology when it's a little bit difficult sometimes to find those people around in the Harvard community. So I think that it's really important that we recognize that everyone's taking advantage of these things, and the more they court us, the more I think we'll be engaged in this process going forward.
Okay, gentlemen, we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Malcolm Glenn at Harvard University, Massachusetts, Rob Anderson in Washington, D.C., and Amin Hussein there in New York. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We, of course, welcome your comments and your suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From the whole team here, goodbye for now.